What if the lies you've believed your whole life are holding you back and you didn't even know it? Erica Gwynn is here to help women spot the myths, embrace the truth, and thrive. Whether you need a cheerleader, a coach, or a fellow thrifty treasure hunter, she's your girl. And my best girlfriends are back as we ask, how do you honor God when you're disappointed? It's going to be great. Let's go. Welcome to Unscripted Faith. I am so excited you joined me. Today, we're going to talk about all the things that might be holding us back and us being unaware of it. Disappointment, lies, all of it. We get into it starting now. If I'm not hustling, I'm lazy. It's happening for everyone but me. I'm too messy, broken, damaged to be loved. These are just some of the lies my next guest says we believe. Erica Gwynn is here to help us flip the script and to make the most of whatever life has to give. Erica, welcome to Unscripted Faith.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so exciting to be here.
We're honored to have you, girl. You're hailing from Philly, the city of brotherly love, and you're going to teach us all about how to embrace the love of the Father and be able to show up as that in the world. Before we dive into all of that, Erica, share with me how you came to faith in Christ.
Well, gosh, I was someone who grew up in the church, grew up going to church. So I think it was always a part of my story, but it didn't necessarily feel really personal to me until I came face to face with, honestly, a lot of these lies and a lot of just real life, real world challenges where you have those literal come to Jesus moments where everything you thought you knew kind of stands on its head and you're like, wait, what is true? What do I believe? Like, where is God in this? Where's God in the mess? Where's God in the darkness and in the really hard parts of my story? So I would say I grew up being someone who was always your stereotypical overachiever, I was the girl striving for those gold stars, always kind of believed the lie that I could do anything, that I was always enough, and that if I believed I could, so I would. And I didn't necessarily realize how not only untrue that was, but also how damaging that was until adulthood, until I was in past college, until I was a mom myself and had to really confront some of this and go, hold up. If this isn't true, if I have a limitation, if I have something that I can't do in this life, what does that mean? What does that mean about me? What does that mean about God? What does it mean for my daughter or any of my other kids? And really just kind of having to unpack all of that from not just a worldly lens, but for me, I really wanted to unpack it all from a biblical lens to be like, wait a minute, if the world is selling us one thing, and this is not the story that matches up to reality, let alone what God actually wants us to believe, then I need to look further into this and figure out what is actually true here and how do we move forward in a way that is healthy and also holy.
Wow. Was there a specific moment that happened that you saw, like you felt like, man, I'm really failing here? Or was it just this kind of general revelation that came?
Gosh, there were quite a few. So in my book, we break down 17 different lies. So they all kind of stemmed from different things in my own personal story. I would say from a lens of personal achievement, a lot of those were kind of a slow burn come on, where I made it through grade school, through high school, did the whole high school valedictorian, go to Ivy League college, check off all the boxes. And in college realized, hold up, I am no longer a shark in a pond. I'm now a guppy in the ocean.
Yeah.
Everything I know about achievement and where my worth lies and where my value lies is now being turned on its head. So that might have been one lens from a personal achievement standpoint, if you will. But then I would say probably more significantly might have been things like the birth of my first daughter. When she was born at 32 weeks. She was only 3 pounds when she was born. She was in an emergency C-section where we both almost died. And for me, that threw a big lie in my face because we hear God won't ever give you more than you can handle. Wow. Okay, well, anyone who's had like a near-death experience or nearly losing a child, in those moments, you're like, I have been given more than I can handle. I cannot do this on my own. So I would say there were a bunch of really pivotal moments along my story so far where God really kind of held something up to the light to go, okay, here's the belief system that you didn't even know you had. Here's something
Yes.
that was in your heart, and I'm about to challenge it in a really big way because you are not going to get through this if you don't look at this closer and unpack it a little bit deeper.
Yes, I love that you brought that up too, because a lot of people believe that is scripture, that he won't give us more than we're able. That's not scripture. That's in reference to 1 Corinthians, you know? Yeah, there's going to be some difficult things we go through, but he's going to help us along the journey. But it doesn't mean you're not going to face things that feel overwhelming. We need his strength. You know, I love that you share that because I've gone on my own personal journey too, Erica, and I had this moment, it was also in college, where I came to this realization that I'm not perfect. Oops, wait, what? What? I'm not perfect? Oh, what do you mean there's imperfection? And it came from a girl literally giving me a book that said, Perfect Imperfections. And when she handed it, I thought, what you saying about, are you saying you see some imperfection in my life? What is it? And I had to like really embrace this moment and took it to the Lord. And in that space, just like you, I came to this understanding, oh my gosh, I actually have a belief inside of me that I need to be perfect. Where did that come from? I know I'm dependent on Christ's strength. So when you came to this understanding, wait a minute, there are these things inside of me that I actually believe, that I didn't realize it. What did you do next to begin to kind of unravel those lies and begin to understand the truth of who God says you are?
Oh gosh, it was really a step-by-step journey with the Lord, I would say. And I would say this is kind of the case for any time we're coming across something that we realize, ooh, this might not be true. Because I will tell you, I was also always that girl who really would have wished for a manual, right? Like I would have loved a lightning bolt from the sky to just hit my front yard to say, here's what you got to do. I see you're believing these lies. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the 5-step process or the secret formula or the sauce to put on this to figure it all out and fix it and move forward. And it'll be neat and tidy and cute and clean. And there you go. Like you can move on. And how cute of us, right?
Yes.
Like that's not how the Lord works. But for as much as originally I thought that's what I would have wanted and needed, I think what I've come to learn through all of this and still learning along the way is that it's actually so good and so gentle of our Father to not drop us the manual, right? Because how overwhelming would it be if he just was like, hey, here's all of the lies that you don't know you're believing that you are. It's going to be a lot. So here you go. And like, just flood us with them. I think he brings us through them step by step and just gives us the light that we need to get through that moment with him. So for me, it was like, okay, you're not going to be given. I know you want like the 5-year plan. I know you want to know what comes next. I'm not going to give it to you because I need you to walk with me through each step of this journey. I need you to trust me and I need you to surrender to me because for a lot of my life and still, that's where it's like grappling for the reins or like I'm the passenger princess, but really I'm reaching for the steering wheel and I'm like, please let me drive a little bit. Like he's like, please stop white knuckling it. I got it. And I need you to be fully in that. Yes. So it's really just been like, as we reach this challenge, now we're going to unpack this slide together because here's where we are. Here's where we're staying until we unpack this together. Then we'll move on to the next thing. So unpacking each thing has not looked the same way. Yes. It hasn't felt the same. They've been in different eras of my life for different reasons. And it's been, I would say, just a really deep, intimate unpacking with the Lord as he needs to, because a lot of times I'll tell you, man, the roots of the lies, they go back. Yes. They go back so far for so many of us, right? They're like, you realize you're believing something and you're like, oh no, I think I started believing that in the 4th grade. Like, oh, what do I do?
Absolutely.
You're not just believing things from like yesterday. You're unpacking a lot, and that's going to take some time.
Yes, and it's created patterns in our life. So it's really hard, Erica, for people to recognize, like we use this term like a lie, you know? It's really difficult, I think, for people to realize, wait, what does she mean? Like a lie I'm believing? How do I know it's a lie? What were some cues to you, or what were things that happened to you that helped you to realize, hold on, this might not be truth?
Yeah. So I'll give you a really good example for this one. There's a lie in the book called I can do anything.
Okay.
And that sounds great at first glance, right? And a lot of people will say like, oh, Philippians 4:13, like I can do all things through Christ, right? And it sounds great. So for me, stemming off of everything that happened with my daughter, having a premature birth, having 73 days in the NICU, being told of all of the different medical challenges, socio-emotional challenges, every sort of neurological developmental challenge that could be impacted for the rest of her life because of the beginning of her story. I looked at that and I thought, man, I believe God wrote her story. And I believe
Yeah.
he wrote that very intentionally. And for as much as I absolutely hated going through it in the moment, it was some of the darkest times of my life. I look back at that and I'm like, but I know he's going to use all of that for good. So, how do I hold that up to, okay, she might come across something in her life that she can't actually just overcome because she believes she can for whatever reason. Am I supposed to now believe that God was everything applies except for her? Like God's goodness, his providence, his everything.
Yeah.
Everybody else can do all things, but not her. Like it started bringing up some of the inconsistencies there, where if you believe what the world says, it's one thing, but if you hold it up against what scripture says, now all of a sudden it might not be fully aligned, and you're kind of left thinking like, wait a minute, which one is true then, and how do we kind of make these marry together in a way that is actually truthful and actually God honoring and actually for our good?
Yes.
So for something like that, it would stir something in me where I was like, hold up, I don't think what Pinterest says is actually true here. Like maybe we're missing something. Maybe there's something more, which would then cause me to go into scripture and say, all right, what actually does God have to say about this?
Yes.
Where have people in the Bible struggled with this? What was the outcome? What does this say about God's character? And what does this mean for me and my family and the rest of my life? And maybe what society is selling us isn't actually all it's hyped up to be.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what came to pass for that lie and for so many others in the book.
Wow, I love that you took that journey and you took it to the word. And like you said, there are lots of times that like these statements that we make in Christianese, you know, that they
Yeah.
our experience, our lived experience can seem very incongruent with them. But when we take it back to the character of God, we recognize, oh no, he is truly the same yesterday, today, and forever. As you journeyed even with your daughter and with yourself, and you began to uncover these things like, man, I'm believing that I can do everything, but really it's Christ in me who does everything, and I might not understand everything. I have to surrender it. You use that term, surrender. What did surrender look like for you in your journey as you began this process of uncovering?
I would say it has been an ongoing journey. And it is something that I would say I do not have fully figured out, because I think it looks a little bit different depending on each season of my life and what the Lord is asking of me. Because I would say surrendering something, gosh, it really depends on how tight of a grip you have on it too. It really depends on what your existing beliefs about God are and what your beliefs about him with regard to that thing are. How you believe him to be with your kids is going to impact how you show up as a surrendered mother versus how tightly are you holding on to a grip of maybe your job. If you've put a lot of worth and a lot of your identity into your job, you might have a pretty tight grip on that. So I would say for me, surrendering has been really bringing things to God and having the willingness to be vulnerable with him to say, show me where I'm not fully surrendered here. And if I'm holding on too tightly, loosen my grip. Like open my hands to receive what you have for me, because I know and I trust that it's better than whatever I'm holding on to myself. And sometimes I don't always feel that way, right? Like sometimes we're not like, yeah, I'm so happy to surrender. Like sometimes we're like, actually, I think I have a pretty good handle on this. Let me hold on to it. I've got it.
Yes.
And I think sometimes being able to say it out loud, like, okay, I feel one way, but I know to be true that you know better for me than I know for myself. So if I'm holding on to something too tightly, you got to loosen my grip and like
Yes.
fill my hands with something better as they are open because I'm
Yes.
scared for them to be open. And I
Yes.
think going to the Father with that open-heartedness and that willingness to be vulnerable with him is a really good first step to surrender, because he knows, like he already knows that what you're holding on to. He already knows what
Yes.
risks holding a higher place in your heart over him, and he wants to make it right with you. So give him the chance to.
Yes. You know, I love that you use that term of like what we're holding on to, like the grip, because I do think that control, any place or space within our world, our life, our day-to-day doings, that we feel like I've got to control that. That's in my control. I must. I have to. Any of those are really good cues to us to know, hold on. There's probably a place you're believing a lie, something that's not true of God's character, something that's not true of what he's asking you to do, and maybe this is an invitation to surrender it back to the Father. This is a place to say, God, I don't need that control. I'm going to give it to you even though I don't want to, you know? But I love all that you shared. Honestly, Erica, you have so much truth, so much wisdom. I love the journey the Lord's taking you on, and I'm super thankful for your latest book. Thank you for coming by Unscripted Faith today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. You must let go of that grip. Anything that you're clinging to, ask the Father, Lord, how do you want this? I release it back into your hands. Do with it as you please. There's so much more that the Lord has for us even today. So stay tuned as my girlfriends join me to ask, how do you walk through disappointment in a God-honoring way? We'll be right back.
You have an amazing opportunity to make a difference every day. Donate to Cornerstone Television Network now, and you'll share the gospel with seekers, inspire believers, offer wholesome family entertainment in a sea of less savory options. Plus, you're changing lives through our Cornerstone Cares outreach. Thanks to partners like you, last year you helped us reach 80 different ministries through monthly support and one-time gifts. You sparked countless stories of transformation for those who are lost, widowed, homeless, or persecuted. Let's do it again today. Please pray about supporting your Christian TV ministry with a generous contribution. Your gift will help Cornerstone Television share the life-changing love of Jesus through Christ-centered programs. Call us at 888-665-4483 or give at ctvn.org/donate. Thank you for changing lives and sharing hope with your Cornerstone Television Network.
You know, as a pastor, it's very, very important that I encourage people to be a part of a local church fellowship. You know, there's a story in the scriptures where Jesus talked about the 99 and he left the 99 to go after the one. The devil always seeks to isolate so he can annihilate. But when you come together in the local church body, Jesus is so confident in the fellowship amongst the saints that he's willing to leave them because he knows they can take care of themselves. This is the reason why. Number one, you need fellowship. Number two, where two or more are gathered, there he'll be in the midst. When you are gathered with the local church body, his presence comes down. One puts 1,000, but two puts 10,000 to flight. When you are a part of a local church fellowship, everything in your life multiplies and exponentially grows. Get into a local church body.
Sitting down today with my girlfriends, and of course they're full of wisdom and life experience. So ladies, I have a question for you today, okay? How do we walk through grief, loss, disappointment in a God-honoring way? Because it comes for all of us. I mean, it is a guarantee. Right. I know I've walked through my fair share. How do we do this, walk through it in a God-honoring way? Lynn?
Yeah, man, I think for me, I've always looked at grief in the context of a loved one passing away, or and you feel sadness and you feel sorrow, and it takes time to heal from that. But grief, I feel like, which is deep sorrow and distress, right? Like, grief can be like unmet expectations, or life not turning out the way that you thought it would. You can grieve certain things, and I think for me, one of the things that I really walked through recently was, and we talked about me moving from here to Nashville, was I didn't realize I would walk through a process of grief and like, man, life, it looks completely different now, and it's never going to look like it did before, and just being in places where just being very uncomfortable and in a new place and with around new people, and, just grieving home. And I think just grieving home, and so I had to walk through that. But I think in a God-honoring way is being very honest about how you're feeling, and when you're going through difficult times, like the Lord promised to be with you. He said He's Emmanuel. He is God with us, and that's what He promised. Like, we're going to walk through different things in life, but one thing that God promised us is that He would be with us. And so that is something that I have held on to time and time again, just walking through grief,
That's good.
That's
God
good.
with us.
Yes.
I love that.
I like that you said it's God honoring to be honest with your feelings, with what you're feeling. Because I think sometimes there's a message that our feelings are bad or misleading, or I don't know. Especially as women, I think that there are certain emotions and feelings that we're told we are not to have, right?
Yeah.
But I think that when you're in the process of loss and of grief, you're going to feel them all.
Yeah.
You're going to feel them all. And I think that it is God honoring to be honest and say, I am feeling this, And Jesus gives us an excellent example in Himself when He says, why have you forsaken me? This is what He was feeling in the throes of despair and pain and suffering on the cross. And, He's referencing, David says that in the Psalms. And so Jesus uses that phrase again. And for me, in the process that I've been in, just in healing and in growing, I have found old, very old, ancient books and fathers of the church, and there's someone called Saint Athanasius, and he said that the Psalms were written to help us kind of get a grip on the stirrings of our soul, help us to understand the stirrings of our soul, and that when we read the Psalms are actually a mirror to ourselves of what we're feeling, and we can use them, right? So Jesus did that. He used the Psalms in that way. So I think that it is God honoring to first acknowledge, I am feeling this. I think that, I think that it's actually a beautiful part of the journey. And also just to say that grief isn't going to just I'm not going to feel this once. I might feel it again. It might circle back again. It might circle back again. And every time that I do feel it, to just be honest that I am feeling this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's neat that you said about the psalm, because sometimes in seasons I'll write my own psalm, in a way of like, God, this is what's going on. This is the grief I'm facing, but here's what I know about you, and the Psalms give us a good outline of maybe in some seasons a God-honoring way is kind of to write our own down. It doesn't need to be shared with anybody, but it's a part of your story. I remember, and I'm sure everybody watching has different levels of grief and things that they have walked through that, but there are people that are here to help and to help you along the way. I remember whenever I went through seasons, a few miscarriages in between having kids and that process, and I remember having all the faith in the Lord. I remember someone that I looked up to said, now, don't you let this baby, like I was having symptoms, don't let this, you have faith and believe that this baby, and I have a lot of faith. I know, God knows my heart, like I have a lot of faith. And it kind of, it threw me off a little bit, because I knew in my heart I had faith, but I also trusted that my body was I had peace. I had deep peace in major grief. So you can experience peace. And I would say everybody has an opinion during your series of grief, or they want to relate, so they try to say something that will encourage you. just know that like if you have peace and you have complex feelings, that's okay.
Yes.
And that God will give you what you need. Like you don't need everybody's opinion, and not everybody is trying to say something to hurt you, but that sometimes it's not about having I had all the faith.
Yeah.
You know, it was just my body isn't perfect, and it wasn't responding well. Something was going on, and I had peace because something didn't feel right.
Wow.
It wasn't my lack of faith.
Wow.
It just something did not feel right.
Yeah.
And I trust that I'll get to see that baby again. You know what I mean? So
I think,
do you know what I'm saying?
I'm really glad that you brought that up,
Yes.
Lauren, because I think a lot of times, all of us have had experiences of people saying, just have more faith. It was because you didn't have enough faith. And,
Right.
you know, and we understand faith and we understand
Oh
all
my
of
gosh,
that.
absolutely.
Obviously.
Sure.
But when we're going through loss and disappointment, or
Right.
somebody else is around us,
Yes.
maybe hold those thoughts
Watch
for
what you
yourself.
say.
Yeah. Think about
Watch
what you're
what
going to
you
say
say. That's
before
right.
you say it. You know, I think about grief. It comes in waves, and I like that you said that,
Yeah.
Kara. You know, my mom would often describe it as the wave you don't see coming.
Yeah.
You know, it could be in the ordinary
Wow.
thing, and it just hits you, and all of a sudden you're
Yeah.
grieving.
a good way
And
to
to me,
explain
when I think about walking that journey of grief or loss or disappointment, I think about the way we honor God is by continuing to walk with Him in it.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, it's not like I don't have to have all the right answers. I can be angry, but I'm still walking with Him.
Yeah.
And I'm still trusting that His character will prevail in my loss, and I'm being real with Him.
Yeah.
Not fake.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's great, everything's great. No, I'm real with my Father and
Right.
holding His hand.
Yes. Right.
Oh, ladies, I think this is going to help
Yeah.
so many people.
Yes.
We have more for you right after this break. Stay with us.
You're one of Cornerstone TV's best donors. You've chosen to support its mission of spreading the gospel through Christian media and its Cornerstone Cares outreach. You love the fact that 10 cents on every dollar goes to feed the hungry, clothe the poor, and more. Problem is, sometimes you forget to send in your pledge. And before you know it, 1 month becomes 2 months, or even 4. There has to be a better way. Don't fixate, automate, and simplify your giving with Easy Pledge. One simple decision can replace 12 choices each year. When you give to Cornerstone TV, sign up to have your monthly gift automated by calling 888-665-4483 or choosing recurring giving online at ctvn.org/donate. Life just got easier, knowing that your gifts to spread the gospel can be more predictable, even when the rest of life isn't. Well done, my friend.
My friend, today, are you walking through disappointment, loss, or grief? Or are you in a season of life where you feel the fruit of the Spirit are hard to see in your own world? Can I tell you, those are cues or indicators to say, stop, breathe in the truth of who God is, maybe even explore the Psalms to understand what David experienced, and know that God will walk with you. Peace lacking, He is the Prince of Peace. Love missing, guess what? He is love. Today, embrace the God of peace and love and watch how your world changes.
Cornerstone Television wishes to thank all our faithful viewers whose consistent prayers and financial support have made this program possible.